Guardians had one of their best offensive outputs over the weekend. Jeff and I have done the research. You will want to hear what the shocking conclusion is, why the Guardians offense broke out this weekend.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, to Locked On Guardians. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. We'll see how my internet holds up. It has been rough of late. Thanks, Spectrum. But made a poor choice, which, hey, it seems like the Guardians made a few this offseason. We crunched the numbers, and it's very clear watching these last two games. The obvious thing is the Guardians just need to cut Jose Ramirez. He's clearly above.
Yeah, clearly Jose Ramirez was the problem for the Guardians offense. He was holding them back. They had to get him out of the 3 spot and move other guys around. So clearly the Guardians should move on from Jose Ramirez. That is our shocking conclusion.
Yeah. Obviously we are kidding. Either Spectrum was mad about me hating on them, or the StreamYard decided, man, StreamYard is just killing me of late. Don't switch your Spectrum. I guess that is the lesson here. But the one thing we'll say is, we had a lengthy discussion Saturday night in text where we kind of going back and comparing like this year and last year. And that is something where we have some interesting data to talk about. I think that we'll start with our pen discussion, right?
We'll talk about the offense just a little bit too. Okay. I mean, it was a good weekend. Now, let's be fair. Friday night, the Rays, that's the difference between the Rays and the Guardians right now, right? Is the Rays tried to give that game away in the 9th inning on Friday, and the Guardians just didn't want to take it. They got some free runs, and then they decided, well, that's fine. We got some free runs out of it. They didn't earn those runs, except for some people had some plate discipline. Some others went up there swinging at everything as usual. Didn't earn those runs on Friday night in the 9th inning. But like I said, that's the difference in the Rays and the Guardians right now is they got gifted 3 runs, and still they still scored 5 that game. So it wasn't like the offense was terrible. I mean, 5 for this offense is unfortunately pretty good at this point in time. And we have to mention, obviously, the offensive breakout of the weekend. Miles Straw, first home run in over 1,000 some plate appearances. I think that's obviously the highlight of the entire weekend. And that we could talk about we can go the entire show, just talk about Miles Straw's power outburst, because that might be the story of the year, that he had a home run this year.
It was great seeing Jose. Yeah, I've got one bar showing here, so I don't even know if I'm in this conversation or not. But it was great to Jose grab him and give him a hug. Like the closeness with those two, and just nice to it's got to be a weight off his shoulders. I mean, such a weight after everyone bringing it up. And I'm not saying that power is his game, but stuff like that just sits in the back of your head. So good for him. And that whole game was ridiculous. I said in my now, this team had a case to make that they could have swept the Rays this weekend, but. They instead take 1. I'll take that. But it was Straw's home run. And then if that wasn't crazy enough, the 9th inning, both sides of it were just ridiculous.
I mean, Friday and Saturday, right? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Friday, the Guardians got some gifts. They didn't take advantage of the gift to go to the 9th inning, and the bullpen blew it again on Friday. And then Saturday, the Guardians took their turn to blow things. But a good weekend. Everybody had a good approach this weekend. Like Steven Kwan did a lot of nice things offensively. Jose Tena got a couple of at bats on Sunday, and I know he didn't end up getting a hit, but he worked a walk, and I thought it was really interesting how little he is chasing. Like he had a couple of bats where he did chase at the end in the last couple of pitches, but he was getting deep into counts. Like he's averaging over 5 or 6 pitches per plate appearance so far in the majors. And obviously the scouting report is going to change on him, and we'll see what happens to him. But in the minors, he was a guy who chased a lot and didn't have a whole lot of patience. I kind of figured him, whenever he played, he would come up here swinging out of his shoes. And jumping at everything, and he has not done that. So credit to Jose Tena there. Rocchio did some nice things. Bo Naylor had a nice weekend. Ramon Laureano had a couple of nice things, a couple of nice games, a couple of nice things he did. I think it's interesting the emotion he showed too about that he thought he should have caught that ball on Saturday. Look kind of rough at it in the context of things that he threw his glove on the ground after he missed the catch. But the guy cares. That's good. That's what you want. You want a guy out there who cares. And he had 2 hits in that game as well. So I thought he did a good job Saturday. Everybody had a good. I mean, even Cole Calhoun had a nice day Saturday, and then Sunday, Gabby Arias hit the home run, and he had 3 hits in their day this weekend. There's still, at some point before the end of the season, we'll have to talk about shortstop and how things look going into the offseason in that shortstop battle between who is going to see the most at bats. Is it going to be Arias? Is it going to be Rocchio? Does Tyler Freeman factor in? At some point, we'll have to kind of discuss how that's looked so far this year and where that's going to go. Andres Gimenez obviously had a great day on Sunday. I think he's looked a lot better hitting second in the lineup. I mean, it's a very, very small sample size, but I think the approach has been a little better since he's moved up in the order. And I kind of just like the things he brings to that part of the order. Plus, he has been the Guardians' most aggressive base runner. I think that's something to be to look at in the second part of the order, considering the Guardians' offense has just been stagnant in terms of how aggressive they've been offensively as Jeff dropped out. We'll try to get Jeff back at some point during this episode. So the offense, they did some good things over the weekend. I don't know where necessarily how sustainable it is. I mean, everybody did some good. Even Oscar Gonzalez, who didn't swing a lot of strikes on Sunday, I think still had a pretty good weekend overall. And facing the Rays pitching has really had their woes over the last couple of weeks. They've had guys who have been in and out of the rotation. They have guys that are hurt. Zach Eflin, who has been one of the best pitchers in baseball at home this year, they beat him up on Sunday. He was he only walked one batter, so it was an aggressive approach from the Guardians. And the Guardians, offensively, I wanted to save this for later in the show, but now that Jeff is gone, I kind of want to bring it up. The Guardians' approach offensively, it worked this weekend. Obviously, they did a good job scoring runs on their own Saturday. I mean, like I said, 5 runs on Friday. That's good for this offense, considering where they've been. So let's not take that away from them, even though they were gifted 3 runs and still found a way to lose that game. And they got a home run from Miles Straw, which, anytime you get a home from Miles Straw, I feel like you should win that game because that should be worth like 3 points. Like that should be anytime you have a guy in your lineup who hasn't hit a home run in over 2 years, you should probably get some bonus points out of that. We should find a way to work that in. But the Guardians' offensive approach, I mean, is while it worked over the weekend, I was looking up some stats. They are the hardest team in baseball to strike out, which really isn't a surprise to anybody, right? But the thing that I think makes them frustrating as an offense, and some of this, I don't know, you can contribute to youth. I think it's not necessarily the age and the experience of the guys, but it's just profiles they have bet on. They are 25th in baseball when it comes to walks. So they walk 7.8% of the time. This is all coming in a Saturday. They chase out of the zone the second most of any team in baseball, right behind the White Sox, who are the worst. That's not where you want to be, especially because a lot of it is by Tim Anderson, who I believe is still trying to figure out if he's serving his suspension after Jose did. They are second in contact rate. We're not surprised by that. Washington's a little bit better. They've got a couple guys in their team that make a lot of contact. And, of course, the Guardians are 30th in hard hit rate. They are bottom third in the league in all of the power categories, home run, slugging, OPS, ISO, all that stuff. When you put all that together, it's, not many Ks, which is, it's good. The walks, no walks. They chase a lot. That's not something you want to do. If you're a team that's not going to, for a team that doesn't strike out a lot, you would think they wouldn't chase a ton. But, you've got guys in the lineup that kind of do. Jimenez, it chases quite a bit. Gonzalez, obviously. Brennan has been more aggressive than he should be. Gabriel Arias is an aggressive hitter. Jose, at times, has chased a little bit himself, too. Josh Naylor is a guy who chases a lot as well, makes a lot of, it's just a lot of guys who they can make a lot of contact and they still make contact out of the zone. So you can't have a team that doesn't walk, that also chases out of the zone and not make hard contact. So the Guardians did hit the heck out of the ball on Sunday. I will say that was a game where they put the ball in play with hard contact. They had a 48% hard hit rate on Sunday, and see what happens when you hit the ball hard, you win. You score a lot of runs. That worked out very well for them. And they only had 2 walks the entire day. So that was all on the bats, nothing really on the approaches. Jose Tena had a walk, which is, like I said, surprising. And Bo Naylor, not surprising that he had a walk, and he had a great day running the bases as well. So when we talk about process and results with the offensive profiles the Guardians have put together, and you see stretches like this where the offense can do that because of the contact rate, that's great. And as you can see throughout the rest of the year, they have not consistently put this kind of these series together, because as you just saw against the Blue Jays, who, the Blue Jays are definitely not as good as the Rays, even though the Rays pitching is beat up a little bit. They scored 4 runs in 7 runs in a 3-game series. That is, 6 runs in a 3-game series. That's not going to work a whole lot. So it's again, that's how the Guardians have been all year. It's team streak and trying to find some sort of balance there. And the way the offensive profiles they have dug into, this is what happens. And Jeff's right. The Guardians had a reason to say they could have swept the Rays over the weekend. They did not. And that was because of the bullpen. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the bullpen, and we're still going to talk about the Guardians rookie pitching, because obviously Williams and Bibee had another fantastic weekend, some historic stuff, and some really interesting stats that I found on those guys. So stick around for those discussions as well. The Guardians are going to have Hall of Fame weekend coming up next week. They're going to have Manny Ramirez inducted to the Hall of Fame. They're going to have Manny Ramirez bobblehead night. Those tickets are going to go. So if you're stressed out about if you want to go to this game and you want to get a Manny Ramirez bobblehead, you want to see him inducted to the Hall of Fame, I think there's going to be a lot of alumni there. Should be a lot of fun. If you are stressed out about getting tickets to that, because the tickets are going to go for that, you should check out the Gametime app. Forget planning months in advance, even weeks in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Gametime guarantee means you are always going to get the best price. So if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Not even just 110%. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and when you use code LOCKEDONMLB, you're going to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB to get $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Guardians are off on Monday, but when they come back home on Tuesday to face they're going to Cincinnati for a 2-game series. That should be a lot of fun. Listen to the hometown broadcast, Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus, on your SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians. The bullpen. Yeah, this was not a pretty one. And Jeff and I had this conversation last week, right? We talked about being patient with the bullpen, and De Los Santos had a bad outing last week, and everybody has had their turn to blow up this year. And the bullpen in the second half has been horrendous. There's no way around it. There's really been no sign or nothing to get excited about with the bullpen. There's been no reason to think it's getting better. Like, the bullpen has regressed significantly in the second half for the most part. And it's not on the shoulders of one pitcher. Everybody has had their day. And Clase is not exempt from that either. He on Saturday, obviously, if you saw the game, it kind of seems like at times Emmanuel Clase does get unlucky, and he absolutely does get unlucky. And the numbers are still very good in him overall. If you look at his StatCast data, things are mostly red, except for the walks are up a little bit, the strikeouts are down a little bit. That does sting for him. But Saturday, was his own doing. He got hit hard. Yandy Diaz, I think, took a lot of pleasure in that ball that he hit off of Manuel Clase that almost tied the game. And then Yandy Diaz gets to third base because of one, he doesn't hold runners on. Emmanuel Clase doesn't hold runners, so that every time you get on base, essentially a free run against Emmanuel, or free base against Emmanuel Clase. This was a problem a year ago. It's a problem now. It's a problem for him and Trevor Stephan. It's a problem for De Los Santos. They don't have a lot of relievers that hold runners on very well. It's a constant problem, especially with the new rules. And then he threw a wild pitch, and that got Diaz to third. So the only reason Diaz was able to score the tying run the game is because of the wild pitch and allowing steals, because he took off to second base to race out of the double play, and he didn't hold runners. Now, ground ball to...
Why don't the Guardians do that more? Why aren't they taking off to get out of the double play? Like, I see other teams doing it, and
yeah,
we can get into the, I don't know what I missed with my internet being poor. But yeah, I do, I was listening to you. I do want to say they have the 9th worst FIP, 21st overall, tied for 20th. So tied with Philly for the 10th worst team. I'm sorry. Actually, I have this backwards. Since July 1st, in spite of all their foibles, they're still the 10th best FIP amongst bullpens. So it's like they're not as sharp that, through most of the year they've been top 3. But yeah, they're still performing well, as crazy as that might seem for people out there. And in ERA since July 1st, they are 5th, 6th. They're 6th since then. So for as crazy as this bullpen has had its moments, it's also been used a lot. So helps bring down.
Yeah, I don't know where they are in terms of innings pitched from a year ago.
They're about the same. I did that on when we were talking. It's like they're on about a similar. They were 26th a year ago, and now they're 21st. So it's not like a huge change in terms compared to the rest of the league.
Yeah, and I'm not really worried about Clase long term. Like, obviously, he's been used heavily this year. A lot of tight games. That's going to happen, and the strikeouts are down and the walks are up. And I think the pitch clock hurt him early in the year. I think he got out of some mechanics from that early in the year. I think he got into some bad habits. He's still a good closer overall, and one game shouldn't make anybody doubt him, because overall he's been pretty good. Everybody in this bullpen has had a turn to kind of blow up here and there, but he just that one game, that Saturday, was the one time where he's had such bad batted ball luck. If you look at the results, I mean, the ball that Brandon Lau hit to shortstop, where he should have. I'm sorry, is it Brandon Lowe or Lau? I always get
Lau.
That's Lau. Yeah. That always confuses
that one I know.
That was
I'll get the
that
rest
had an expected batting average of 130. That's normally not a base hit, but the only reason Diaz even had a chance to score is because Clase doesn't hold runners, and because they do a wild pitch. There has been some more wildness this year, and the holding runners thing is just an absolute disaster. Like, I don't understand. That's something the Guardians have to fix over the offseason with him, with Stephan, and if De Los Santos is still here next year, which I mean he should be, but that's something you got to fix. You have to go out and you have to get those guys to hold runners, because you can't have your bullpen giving up a free base every time a runner gets on and not giving your catcher a chance to compete, especially when you have a young catcher like Bo Naylor. You have to give him a chance to throw guys out, and those guys don't have slide steps. They're slow to the plate. It's better just not let runners on. But and here's the other thing with the bullpen too. On Saturday, like, okay, Xavier Curry obviously didn't pitch that great Friday. Yeah. He's better as a spot starter. He was definitely good in his role, and I understand. I have no problem giving Xavier Curry a chance, to be honest with you, at this point in the season. Let's see what he can do. But you put in Daniel Norris behind him, who walked 4 guys. That gave the game away. Michael Kelly was
no hits, by the way. Gave up 4. Gave up walks. Yeah, it just.
And
runs, one earned. Yeah, but Norris and Kelly, and then I mentioned in our tweet conversation, Eli Morgan is doing what he did a year ago as well, where it's like 8 of his last 14 games is going up an earned run. I don't know why it is. It turns to July and he just falls apart. But we saw this 2 years in a row. So yeah,
I don't know. But why are we at this point in the season? And like, you probably want to protect some of your other relievers. They do need to worry about not over. I mean, they've already burned the relievers, obviously, but I mean, Stephan and Clase and De Los Santos are all clearly burned a little bit from the overuse, and they're all struggling to different degrees in some points. I mean, here and there. Hentges has not been quite the same as he was a year ago, and I wonder how much of the injury impacted that. But so I get Kelly is interesting overall, I guess. I'm not against that. But what is Cody Morris doing in AAA? And now Cody Morris was hit around too his last outing in AAA. They're still working on extending his pitch count. I mean, it's August 14th, and Cody Morris has gotten how many major league reps this year? He is 26 years old. I think he's going to be 27 going the next year. I mean, they got to figure out a role for him. Obviously, he has to stay healthy, but why are we at this point in the season where things are clearly off the rails a little bit? What is Daniel Norris giving you that Cody Morris can't give you? That at this point,
pitching
Cody Morris
for a week. I think that's the whole reason. It's he's the guy who can sit and not pitch for a week. Now,
right? Because there are
do that, but in general, maybe that's not something that they should be doing. Maybe they should be cycling through everyone so that
that burns everybody else.
Yeah, maybe
that burns everybody else. There are stretches of games where I'm like, oh, do you remember that Daniel Norris is still on this team? Do you remember that Michael Kelly is still on this team? Because they don't pitch for a week, and it's is that a good use of a roster spot? You're still going to the other relievers. You're still going to Morgan and Stephan and Sandlin and De Los Santos and Clase very heavily because those two guys in your bullpen basically just barely exist. They're there for emergencies, following Xavier Curry the other night. But it's a waste because Cody Morris needs reps. The guy, even if you want to piggyback in behind Curry, that's fine. If Curry goes 3 and Morris goes 3. At this point, though, Morris needs major league reps. If he's healthy, he should be in the majors because he's going to be 27 next year. You've got to figure out a role for him. The guy just needs major league reps right now. I know he's not doing fantastic at AAA, but he's pitched well at AAA before, and you're at the point in the year where things have obviously gone south. And if you're going to sit there and talk about, we're talking about complaining about Cole Calhoun, who has had good moments offensively. The other day he had 2 walks and a hit. He had an RBI. He seems to be a decent clubhouse guy, whatever. Why do you have to do that with Daniel Norris? I understand right now Josh Naylor's in the IL. You don't have another option. Cole Calhoun is kind of there to be a warm body because Mike Capriz and John Kenzie-Noel really aren't technically options right now. Cody Morris is available, and he needs major league reps. He's proven he can get out to AAA.
I think this comes down to, again, the coaching staff. I think they want that long inning vet, that guy who can stick around in the background and throw a bunch of innings when they need him. They like having that security blanket. That's my bet in this situation. I agree with you, though. I think that's kind of a wasted spot, but it does feel like that is a role that they have always. It's not Brian Shaw because they used Shaw so much in the past, but they like having that guy who can just sit there and collect mothballs at the back of the pen until needed.
I know. There are just some days where I'm like, oh, yeah, Daniel Norris is still on this team. Great guy. I know Daniel Norris's background. I know him a little bit from seeing him in the minors. Great guy, but I just don't get it.
Should we take, I'm not sure. Did you take break 2? We should probably take that here, right?
Should do that, and we should come back and talk more about the rookie starting pitchers who had a great weekend. So we will do that. No game Monday for the Guardians, but Tuesday, tune in on your Sirius XM app to listen. They can't lose Monday, but Tuesday, they're going to face the Reds. Will Benson. Listen to that call on your Sirius XM app. Just search for Guardians. Yeah. Okay, rookie pitchers over the weekend. First question for you. Gavin Williams, 14.
Oh, my internet's going out. I got to get. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, you are, for a teacher, man, you are trying to get out of a test here. This is a pop quiz. You are a teacher. Quiz. You cannot get out of the pop quiz. Gavin Williams had 14 swinging strikes on his 4-seam fastball on Saturday. Who are the only 2 Guardians since 2014? And I did 2014 because that was the era of Corey Kluber and where the pitching started to take a step forward. Who are the only 2 pitchers to have that many swinging strikes on their 4-seam fastball? And who was the last one?
Yeah, in general?
Yes, there's 2.
Okay. Yeah,
who were the last 2? And
I feel like one is likely Kluber, but with your face,
this is just strictly 4-seam fastball. So Kluber, Kluber would have been cutter 2-seam. I didn't include that. No. Strictly heat.
Okay, just on the heat.
One you should get, and the other one I had to triple check to verify this, but it was true.
In that, did Clevenger throw a 4-seam?
He did. He had 13. He didn't get to 14. He did have a game where he had 13 swings and misses on his four seam.
So Clevenger would have been my go-to guess, just in terms of, Kluber and Clevenger had the high K rates.
There's one obvious name you're missing. Who had some of the best heat we've ever seen come up as a rookie?
As a rookie. Oh, so is this as a rookie or just at any?
No, this is just in general. This is just in general.
I mean, is it Salazar?
Salazar is one of them. In 2016, he had 14 swings and misses on his four seam. The other one, do you want to guess? Do you want me to give it to you?
James Karinchak.
No, because this would have been one game. If he was allowed to throw 14 fastballs in a row or 14 of them in one inning, I don't know how that would have ended. The other one is Eli Morgan, actually.
Oh, it was when he started?
It was a start in 2021 against the Red Sox. He threw 30. He got 33 swings on his four-seam fastball and 14 misses, which, again, I had to
must
go
have
back and
before
look through.
July. I know it wasn't because he wasn't. I know it was after, but he's turning into the Jason Kipnis of this team, where it's like, hey, summer months, the anti Ahmed Rosario.
Yeah, clocking out for the year. Thanks.
But
so that was the only two pitchers and since 2014 that have had that many swings and misses on their four-seam fastball. He was essentially a two-pitch pitcher Saturday. He didn't throw the slider a lot. They just went fastball curve, and he really didn't even throw his breaking stuff for strikes a ton, to tell you the truth. It was just all fastballs, and because he commanded the fastball so well and they just couldn't hit that, he didn't really have to do a whole lot else. But kudos to him, because it's not often we see a guy with command issues. Like Jeff and I have talked about it multiple times. We're waiting for him to come back again. The Guardians generally do well with guys who have command, and they help them throw 2 or 3 miles an hour harder. Gavin Williams doesn't need help throwing harder. He needed help throwing more strikes. And the last couple starts, he's done that. So the last 2 starts for Gavin Williams, he is now in the same boat as Bob Feller and Herb Score as the only rookies with 10 or more strikeouts in consecutive starts. So, and
Josh Tomlin to me, in that group. No Josh Tomlin.
Not Josh Tomlin. No, it's just
Jason
2
Davis.
It's just one Hall of Famer and one guy who would have been a Hall of Famer and Gavin Williams in that group. And that, to me, that is just command. Like, the stuff has been there for Gavin Williams. That is just a product. The fact that he's missing more bats isn't because the stuff got better. He's always had the stuff. It is the fact that the last 2 games he is throwing more strikes, and guys have to respect every pitch. They have to watch out for the fastball, and it's making his breaking stuff more effective.
No, great. It's the command that we never really saw. But again, this is where you get things wrong as an evaluator, because we only saw one season in the minors, basically. We had all of last year. It takes more than a year to develop. So,
especially when you have a guy like him who was a reliever in college at times, and also had
injuries. Reliever, was a starter for like 1 year, came in and didn't pitch at all in his draft year, and also a guy who's like growing into his stuff. So, my crappy internet cut out again. So I missed some of it, but it's like, I don't know if you talked about, but I keep mentioning, it's like, this is what gives you hope for Cantillo, who, yes, he's had a longer run of it, but he's also been hurt constantly and hasn't had a chance to really figure out he keeps adding velocity. But I remember going back, throwing a name from the past, talking with Kyle Dowdy in the minors after they got him from the Tigers, and he was like 92, 93, comes to Cleveland, starts hitting 97. And, talking with the coaching and him, is like figuring out how to harness that stuff when you get there can be its own, trick, its own problem to do. So it's for Cantillo, for a Williams. Sometimes you never harness it. Sometimes you do. Right now, Gavin Williams, hopefully this is not just, a hot run. We'll see it continue on like this. And then all of a sudden you have the nice thing of 2 aces with 5 more years of 5.5, maybe 6 more years of team control, depending on how these rookie of the year races go.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, I want to address something too. So Jeff and I were going back and forth on some of Bibee's stats. So he is at 2.4 Fangraphs wins above replacement. That makes him top among all rookie pitchers. And among all rookies, he only trails Josh Young and Luke Raley in Fangraphs WAR. He is second among rookies in ERA. He is first among rookies in fielding independent pitching, minimum of 100 innings. If Tanner Bibee does win Rookie of the Year, which, okay, whatever. If he finishes top 2, actually, I forgot the rule is extended to top 2. So if he finishes first or second in Rookie of the Year voting, Tanner gets a full year of service time. And the Guardians do not get the draft pick no matter what, because he was not up on opening day. So I think there's a good chance the way things are going. Josh Young is going to miss a lot of time. He may not be back in time to accrue a little bit more, and Bibee should pass him the next 2 starts. Gunnar Henderson is right there. Yoshida is far enough back in F4. I don't think voters are looking strictly at F4 for this, but and he'll get votes because he's from Boston and because he is having a nice year. Just he doesn't have a lot of the other stuff to go along with it. Like, it could be between Hunter Brown and Bibee and Luke Raley. I think Josh Young is going to miss out just because of the injury at this point. So if he finishes top 2, and I think if he keeps this run going, there's a chance that Bibee could finish top 2 in Rookie of the Year voting. The Guardians will not get a draft pick. And
I'll just say, as a pitcher and as a small market team that is not really in the heat of it, I am betting that the odds are just against him. Like,
yeah, we'll see this final
better voting of late, but it's still rather poor.
Gunnar Henderson has kind of struggled recently. Yoshida struggled a little bit recently. We'll see who finishes the year on the best run, and I think that's going to make a difference. But the Guardians will not get a pick no matter what. But if Bibee does somehow finish in the top 2, he gets a full year of service time. And all I'm going to say is, if that does happen, Guardians should be hitting up Tanner for a contract extension sooner rather than later. Because here's the problem:
number one priority.
You're not getting Gavin Williams to sign the dotted line for an extension because of who his agent is. So number one priority should be to lock up Bibee, because we're going to talk sometime this week about the Guardians offense and how they're going to be able to turn it around for next year if they can, and if they can match up any hitting to this pitching that they have going on right now, that they seem to have in place for the next few years. So if you want to pick a guy who's going to be there with your team, if you can develop some of these hitters and turn this into back into a legitimate, World Series contender, you're going to need someone. You're going to need to grab some club control from some of these pitchers. And if Bibee earns himself a little extra service time due to Rookie of the Year voting, you're going to want to go ahead and get that extension done, because I don't think the Gavin Williams one is happening, especially with the way he's going right now. So we'll talk about more of that this week. And then Guardians are off on Monday, so I think it's a good time for us to jump back into Minor League Monday. We'll do some around the farm stuff. Who knows? Jeff might even have some draft stuff to talk about. And we'll do mailbag questions for Mailbag Monday. So get us your questions in for Tuesday's episode, as the Guardians are off on Monday. Anything else, Jeff?
No. Recommendations for a better router. My Arrow mesh is apparently crap. So send that in.
That'd be good. Everyone would be very thankful for all that.
Yeah. Thank you all for everything you do, being an everydayer, and go Guardians go.